This is Muslim Mamaholic. Welcome. This is my first live interview or semi-live interview. I have with me here today Omar Khwaja, the world-renowned author of the Ilyas Duck books.
Okay.
I'm really excited to have him here. I have a lot of questions from myself and some questions from some of the readers, and also some questions here from my kids. They're very excited about this interview. So I just wanted to say welcome, Brother Omar. It's really nice to have you here. And I'm going to go ahead and say salam.
Vibes, thank you. Assalamu alaikum. Thanks for having me, Sarah. I appreciate it. It's even though it's the middle of the night.
Yeah, it is the middle of the night. Can you just begin by telling us a little bit about who you are and what your background is prior to becoming a world-renowned, famous.
All right. First of all, there's no such thing as a world-renowned anything at this point. Behind me, you really can't see, but my daughter's sleeping. I'm in her room. This is my office. There's no world-renowned anything. This is where I work, in my daughter's office.
All right.
My daughter's bedroom. So, inshallah, we'll keep it at that. But as far as background is concerned, I was born in Saudi Arabia, and my parents are from Pakistan. So I have a heritage hails from Pakistan, and so I lived in Pakistan in Saudi Arabia for a few years, and then we moved to the U.S. when I was about 10, and then I lived in New York for most of my life, and until we moved on to me and my wife and my kids at the time, 2 kids at the time, moved on to the D.C. area where we live now.
And you said you had 2 kids at the time. How many kids do you have now?
I have 3. I have 2 boys and 1 girl.
Okay, so I'm assuming that your children were part of your inspiration to write these books, but I mean, I have to ask, what was it that made you decide to kind of, write children's books, and specifically, how did you come up with this idea for these characters, Ilyas and Duck?
Okay, so the inspiration story actually is, yeah, you're right. The more immediate reason why I created Ilyas and Duck, or started writing storybooks, is because my kids were of the age a few years ago when they started asking profound but simple questions about the world, and particularly about their faith and whatnot. So as a dad, as a father, I just couldn't really explain to them. I couldn't answer some of the questions that they had in a meaningful way. So I thought the best thing to do was easy enough, just to write a book about it. And so that's how the idea came about. And then of course, when they were asking about God, about Allah, that was the first story that came to mind. I said, okay, how can I tell this in a way that they can relate to?
Right.
And I had read to them hundreds and hundreds of books at bedtime, and that was like one of the more, as a parent and for kids also, it's one of the more memorable times in their life, I think, when it's bedtime and parents reading to them. So I really enjoyed that as well. So I used to read to all my kids all the time. I still do. And so I knew that good children's books had to have great stories, had to have great characters, and really have something that teaches them something. So those 3 components of it, I kind of learned that over time, and so I had the idea of answering their question about Allah and the whereabouts of Allah, and the story came to mind, and then I just thought I should just write a book.
Okay, well, you just write a book. Okay, let me ask you specifically about just writing a book. A lot of my readers are women, a lot of them are mothers, and there's actually a really large number of them that are kind of aspiring writers. Can you kind of walk us through what it's like to just write a book? Like when you have an idea and you kind of, manipulate that idea over time, let it formulate. How do you go from that idea to actually having, it'd be nice if I had a copy of your book right here, but how do you go from that idea to actually having, a hard copy of your book in your hand? What's that process like?
Actually, that's a really good question. Kids ask that all the time. For me, just to go back a little bit, I think where you were going was, how do you just write a book, right? So for me, I was creating. I have a company that I started a couple of years ago, just more or less as a creative outlet, and also as a way to make things Arabic and Islamic products for young kids more beautiful, and whereas back a couple of years ago there weren't that many options, and the things that weren't that appealing. And so I decided to just try to make some products myself, and so I did. And then so the books are just a continuation of me trying to create more and more products. So yes, every single item that I created, like the jigsaw puzzle that I have, like the wall clocks that I have, and like the books, every single time I had to relearn how to do it. It was something new. It was a different product. It wasn't the same manufacturer that I went to or the printer that I went to do that one item. So yeah, there was some learning curve there, but from an execution standpoint, I mean, it's not. If you really put your mind to it and you're really dedicated and driven, you can figure it out. I mean, it's not that hard to figure out the pieces. It's just a matter of thinking a little bit ahead and understanding where the pitfalls might be and trying to cover those before they actually happen. But as far as taking a story from concept to an actual physical book, for me the process is more like, okay, I have an idea, I have an inspiration for a story, and I might have the core of the story, I might have the beginning, like for example the first book, Search for Allah, I had the middle of the story, the repetitive pattern every time they went to a certain different part of the world and they met a different animal. I had that repetitive pattern, and then when I was finally ready to sit down and write, I just had to figure out what the entry point was going to be of the story and what the exit was going to be of the story. Once I had that, I finished writing the story, and then it was a matter of, okay, who's going to illustrate it for me, because I certainly can't draw. So I just went online and found a new number of portfolios by different illustrators, and I picked the one that I thought the style represented what I wanted. I just gave them a call and we negotiated a price, and the rest is history. And of course, the last component of it is finding a printer. There are thousands of printers around. It's just finding the right one.
Well, okay, so let me ask you a little bit about, because I feel like there's a lot of people that are aspiring writers and they have an idea and they start to get words onto paper, and then they kind of get tripped up with some of the obstacles that come up. So let me ask you about what were some of the challenges that you faced, especially when you were writing your first book, and how did you kind of work through those things?
When I was writing the first book, what's that?
Well, I was just saying, like what were some of the most difficult things that you had to get through?
I mean, I think the typical things are, okay, I can write the story myself, but like, how do I find an illustrator? How do I afford the illustrator? And then who's going to print it? And then, like, what do I need to know from a printing standpoint? There was so much that I had to learn along the way and on the fly, because the first book actually, I wanted to launch it for ISNA, and the book actually came in 2 days before ISNA 2012. And that was only because there was some things that I was trying to figure out along the way, and it took me longer to understand what they are. So, for example, like, I didn't realize that the books actually get printed in what's called signatures. So they get printed in pages of 8s. So you actually needed to write a children's book. I'm not sure about the adult books. I think there are also signatures, but for children's books, they come in pages of 8. So if you're going to write a book, you either need to fit it into typical 32 pages, or you go into the 40 pages, or you go into the counts of 8. So typical is 32, and then so if you come in at 41 pages, for example, you're going to have blank pages. So those little things that come out as you go, you kind of figure them out as you go, or you make a mistake and you deal with it. But the challenges are definitely related to not knowing what the next immediate step is or where the pitfalls are. And certainly, I didn't have anybody to rely on. Just kind of Googled my way through it.
And when you were kind of figuring it all out, how did you land on a duck? Why did you choose a duck?
Okay, so you asked this actually before, and I don't think I answered it. So the characters themselves, The duck I chose because I grew up with watching Daffy Duck. And I think Daffy Duck has had some of the most memorable moments in TV history. He's just hilarious, and that stuck with me. So of course now I had the freedom. I'm writing my own book. I can do whatever I want, and I wanted a duck as a sidekick because I knew that I wanted my stories to um, to portray a Muslim identity for young kids to help them strengthen their Muslim identity and not necessarily preach religion. So I wanted a comical character to add that comic relief to the story, which would make it more appealing for young kids. So of course, naturally, it was going to be a duck for me because of my background. I think before about how did I come up with the characters? Ilyas, of course, is a boy character, and I came up with that name because the first book is Search for Allah. And Ilyas, besides being a prophet's name, also means my Lord is my God. So I thought that was perfect.
Yeah, I think that is perfect too. Okay, so I'm consulting my handy-dandy list of printout questions here. Okay, so this is my question actually. What kids' books, you said that you like to read to your kids a lot at bedtime. And we have all read a lot of duds, but what books did you like? What books did you like yourself growing up, and what books have you really enjoyed reading to your kids?
Okay, I have a confession to make. I didn't really read too many books when I was younger.
Okay.
I don't know how many people would admit that, but my background is kind of interesting because I think I spent most of my time when I came to the U.S. as a young child trying to assimilate into this culture that I didn't really have much time to read. I didn't have much time to read. But I think I was fond of writing because I had pretty good feedback from my English teachers, and I can recall maybe on 2 occasions, maybe once in 9th grade and once in 11th grade, where I had written a paper, and the teacher that graded it had actually approached me there afterwards and asked me if I had ever considered being a writer. And so I thought that was pretty interesting thinking back now. But now that I'm older, obviously, and I have kids, I read a ton for them, and it's usually the books that they choose. Oftentimes it's books that we pick up because we hear about them. Eric Carle is one of the books. Mo Williams is another author that's great. So, they're in the mainstream market. There's no shortage of great children's storybooks. So from that perspective, I can go down the list, but there's a ton.
So I'm just kind of curious. Do you have a day job, or is this like what you do now?
So I tell people I do have a day job. I'm an advisor basically. I'm a consultant. I work at a large global advisory firm, and I do boring stuff.
Okay, I'm just curious. Like, you struck it big, and now this is it.
No. So I do that in the daytime, and in the evening I play dad, and then after bedtime is when I play Ilyas Duck.
All right. Okay, so speaking of your kids, I know your daughter's behind you, passed out, so I don't know if she can really answer, but what do your kids think of, your books and your writing and, seeing Baba's name, on a book? What do you think of that?
So when I was writing the first book, they were a little bit younger, and they didn't really care. They would come into the computer room once in a while and watch me work. In fact, they actually would give me some feedback as well. But they didn't really know what I was up to, although they knew it was a book. It just wasn't real to them at that point. I think the first time I remember the book came in the mail, and I showed it to them, and it had my name on it. The look on their face at the time, I think that's when it hit them that my dad's an author, and alhamdulillah, now I think my kids really picked up on that, and one of my kids actually, Ali, which is my 8-year-old son, he actually writes stories all the time. He illustrates them. He he actually even creates flyers for them. He doesn't market it to anybody, but he just creates the flyers.
That is so
So
cool. I love that. That is so cool, alhamdulillah.
a little author in the making.
Alhamdulillah. Um, okay, so I am a newbie to Instagram, and I just joined Instagram, and you are one of the people that I have added on Instagram. And
Cool.
I think it was you. I think you were in Delaware, and you were
Yeah.
the writing workshop in a school. What exactly were you doing with that school?
So they invited me. It's a school in Delaware. It's called the Islamic Academy of Delaware, and they invited me to do a story time, and and I said I would do a workshop as well, a creative writing workshop, because their kids are really into that, and then also a publishing workshop, and to help them answer a lot of the questions that you have about writing and about publishing. The how-tos. And so I went there, and they have about maybe 100, 125 kids, going from age ranging from kindergarten all the way to 8th grade. So I had a really good time. For the kindergartners, obviously, for the little kids, I just did the story time, and for the older kids, I had a little bit more fun. Not only did I do the creative writing workshops and the publishing workshops, which they really enjoyed, but I also did some, like, instead of me reading the stories to them, because they're a little bit older, I had volunteers come up, and they played the part of Ilyas Duck, and I played the narrator. So that was a lot of fun.
That is cool. So is this like something that you do on the side? Is this something that you enjoy doing as well, or was this kind of like a one-off thing?
Yeah, let me tell you, everything I do with Ilyas Duck is on the side, because my day job pays the bills for now, and everything that I need to do with Ilyas Duck has to be on the side. So I try to find some time. I try to take time off of work when I can, and go to these things, because I think they're really helpful, and not only to get the brand out, but and you might be getting to this, but one of the things I wanted to do was, when I started this, not even before Ilyas Duck, was to really create an impact on young Muslim kids, and help them build a stronger Muslim identity. I think that relates to my past, and my belief that the only thing that kept me grounded through all those years and all those struggles that I had, was my foundation in belief that who I am as a Muslim, and perhaps my Islam wasn't as strong at that time as it is now, but it was just that basic belief that I'm Muslim, that I belong to a community, and that there's certain things that I can and cannot do. So it's really important that I get out to schools, and I love talking to the young kids, and alhamdulillah, they really, I think, they gravitate towards me too, so that's great.
So this is definitely something that, because it excites me, just, as a parent, not that my kids go to school, but just to see this sort of interaction between, authors and the kids themselves. So is this something that, people can contact you and ask you to come out and do, and if so, how would they go about contacting you?
Yeah, no, I love that. In fact, I've had several, I guess, moms or people that are affiliated with schools or masjids around the country already contact me, and I'm happy to work with them. So you can just call me on my website, littlebigkids.com. You can go to the contacts link, and I have my email address there and my phone number there. So I'm pretty accessible. Just give me a call, let me know, or just email me and let me know what you're thinking, and I'm happy to accommodate, and I'm happy to go and talk to the kids.
Okay, awesome, awesome, very cool, inshallah. Okay, I have one question. This is actually a shout out. There's a group of Muslim mommy bloggers, and there's a question for you, and I wanted to give a shout out to them, especially Amna from This Little Life of Mine, and
I know.
yeah, and also the sister from Life of a Momtrepreneur. They want to know if Ilyas and Duck are going to perform Hajj anytime soon. Is that in the works? What other books possibly are in the works? If you can give us some inside info.
Yeah, so there are other books in the works, and typically I don't write down a single thing. I let the ideas kind of just like bounce around in my head, and usually that's because there's gaps in the story, and I don't know how I'm going to finish it or start it or something like that. So until I'm pretty comfortable with those gaps, I usually just walk around with it in my head, and maybe something pops in my, an inspiration comes, and I'll finish it, but. Um, do they go to Hajj? Hajj is not one of the next stories that I have in my head, to be honest. But it's one of the stories that people have asked for, and I think it's only because, Hajj season just passed, and it was on everybody's mind. So I don't blame them. I think Ilyas and Duck can do a really good job with going to Hajj. I might just have to watch Duck's antics while he's there. That's the tricky thing for me,
All right.
I want to stick the facts of the I guess you can call them the rituals of Hajj without offending anybody and keeping it fun for the kids. Because at the end of the day, this is all. I'm sorry, parents. It's not about you. It's about the kids.
All right. Okay, so all about the kids. What about, can we expect to see these characters in something that is not a book form? Any plans for any apps or videos or cartoons, anything like that?
Yeah, I'd love to do them. Actually, I have ideas that I can run with right now related to apps and other grand ideas that I have. And if there are people out there actually that are better at creating apps and perhaps even animation better than I am, then certainly contact me, and I'm happy to partner and work with people to grow the Ilyas and Duck brand. But yeah, I have some ideas that I just can't execute on my own right now, but I think they'd be really cool. Even a movie, actually.
Oh my gosh, a movie would be so cool. Maybe
Yeah, I mean,
Ilyas and
I have the whole thing. I have the whole thing worked out in my head. I just don't have the funds to do it, so I have to
Yeah.
wait for somebody.
Maybe I'll
But
make the they go for Hajj in the movie, inshallah. Okay, so I'm gonna wrap up. I'm really sad that my kids are not here. I know we tried to arrange this earlier, and my daughter was really, really excited to participate, but it is a little bit past her bedtime. But if there's anything, I'm just gonna, you know, play the momaholic card. If there's anything that you could say to my kids, any advice that you would give them, um,
how old are you kids?
my kids the twins are 6.
Oh, you have twins. Okay.
Yeah, twins.
Mashallah. All right, so they're 6 years old. I mean, that's actually that is actually right in the sweet spot of Ilyas and Duck. So 6 years old is a really good age. So one thing that I would want to tell them, uh,
Yeah, just give them some advice. I'm gonna make them watch this.
some advice: go to sleep on time.
Yeah, that's
Um,
good.
that's advice I give my kids. I mean, I don't know. I think that, I mean, I'm not one to give advice. I just probably can use a lot of advice myself, but I don't know. It depends on what it is. I mean, you seem pretty creative yourself, and I'm guessing your kids pick up on that. So one advice I would give is don't be afraid to take your idea and move forward with it step by step. Not everybody knows, most people don't know what to do or how to do it. But the key, I think, is, and what I've learned, is that if you take those small steps and are dedicated, and over time, you'll figure it out, because every step that you take, the next few steps become clearer. And if you just stay where you are, you're never going to know, how to get to your goal. But as long as you know what your goal is, you can get over the obstacles. So that's my few words of encouragement.
All right. Jazakallah khair. I know I threw you for a curveball there.
I had to think about it, but you know what? Actually, I tell people that all the
Morning.
time. I tell people that all the time, so I think it was good that I remembered it.
All right. Okay, so before we wrap up, can you just real quick give us an idea of, I know a lot of the folks on the Facebook page were asking where they could find Ilyas and Duck books, and you also mentioned that you did some other products. You said that you had done a puzzle. And I don't know what else you've done, but where can they get all of your stuff?
So everything's available on my website. It's littlebigkids.com, LittleBigKids.com. And you have the puzzle, I have the wall clocks, I have the books, obviously, I have a placemat. So a hodgepodge of things, all for little kids. And so on my website, it's really open to Canada and the U.S. for now. But I do have resellers that carry some of the items, mostly books, overseas, like in Singapore, Australia, alhamdulillah, in UK, let's see, Malaysia, and I haven't announced this yet, but also in the UAE.
See, you are world renowned. That's
Well,
the world. All right, Brother Omar, Jazakallah khair for joining me and joining the rest of the Mamaholic readers and viewers. I know we are all big fans of your work, and we're excited to see what else you have in store for us. You have a standing invitation next time you come up with another book. We would love to have you back if you're game.
Inshallah. Look for the thing next year, springtime, or maybe close to the summertime for new books.
All right. Okay. Hold on 1 second. My kids just popped in. Hold on 1 second.
Yeah. And
you know Ilyas Duck? You know Ilyas Duck?
Hey guys.
He wrote that book.
What's his name?
Oh, we call him Nugget, and we call her Cheese.
Nugget and what?
We call him Nugget, and we call her Cheese. They have secret identities.
Okay, Nugget and Cheese.
Yeah.
You should have costumes too. That's cute. Nugget. Hey, Cheese. Assalamu alaikum.
yeah.
All right, and with that, I will leave
my voice
you. Sorry, what?
Were you sleeping?
I'm sorry, we missed it.
Hello? Oh, were you sleeping, guys? And did I wake you up?
No, they weren't sleeping, actually. They just came back in. They were at their grandma's house. All right, you guys want to say salam? He's going to go. Assalamu alaikum. All right, thank you so much, Brother Omar. Inshallah, next time we will talk again.
Inshallah. Have a good night.
All right, assalamu alaikum.